Well, every single week on the Fight Guys, I tell you, and I know it sounds like a broken record, that we have some of the best, most interesting, and the most relevant guests in the fight business. And this week, I've really come through because I brought you the Croatian sensation himself, none other than Mr. Pat Miletich. Welcome to the show, my brother.
Thanks, Eric. Good to see you, buddy.
Pat, I'm just going to come right out with it. I have a massive amount of respect for you. And I don't see or hear your name or see your face enough in our sport. And I want you to be more involved because you're one of the most trusted voices in combat sports. What have you been up to?
Well, number one, I appreciate that, Eric, and thanks. For me being an old guy, hearing that every once in a while, it's good. But I am kind of full circle right now, because I spent my entire childhood with respiratory illness and pretty severe illness and competed in wrestling, of course, and football. But I did that not being able to breathe until I was about age 20 when I did a lot of research and discovered how to solve my respiratory and health issues through concentrated, natural, very high-grade substances. And so that's where my research went for the last 40 years. That's how I built a team of world champions and a lot of pay-per-view fighters. And so all of that is derived from the soil. So it's soil to human health is basically what I do now. So I educate agriculture folks on how to grow without chemicals, how to give the immune system to the soil, the plants, the cattle, their bees, all of that without any chemicals. No need for any antibiotics, no need for insecticides, any of that, and help people understand that there are real solutions to creating superhumans through super soil. So that's what I do.
That's awesome. And I assume you're still in Bettendorf, Iowa, which is, the center of the world as far as the farming community in America, correct?
That's where I was raised. That's where my gym was. I've been in North Dakota for a few years now on a research farm and facility. So we do everything again from soil to crops to gardens to orchards to honeybees to cattle. Everything. We do research on everything and anything, and including world-class athletes, which I still work with in a myriad of sports.
That's super cool. You tell me some of that research and some of the knowledge that you gained and that stuff that you worked on for your own health and your own athletic endeavors. You put that through to your guys at MFS?
Yeah, 100%. The guys that listen to me generally all won world titles or got near the world title, and that's the honest to God truth, because the modern supplement industry is a lot of lab created substances. We're biological organisms. When we understand just the 64 essential minerals and what is an inorganic metal to an organic metal and why that makes a human being possess superpowers, endless amounts of endurance, and the ability to recover from anything, literally anything. It worked on somebody like me who couldn't breathe my entire life and created a world champion out of me with endless amounts of endurance. So naturally, I started doing research on athletes and consulting for special forces groups, things like that, on how to remove the environmental toxins from their bodies, repair damaged DNA, and rebuild human beings. That was, and still is a lot of my focus, of course, to assist people in understanding that every issue with human illness and every issue with animal illness, etc., is always the environment. So the environment dictates genetic expression and immune function. That's just 100% the case that I've found over the last 40 years.
That's awesome, Pat. I mean, it's super cool that you're doing it. I mean, if you're in North Dakota working on that stuff and you kind of up and left your home, it must be a relatively successful endeavor that you've gotten yourself all the way into.
Well, more than anything, it's becoming more successful. It is something that, the American public has not been generally privy to unless they had done, obviously a lot of research and understood what's gone on historically with the use of chemicals and things like that in agriculture and medicine and things like that. There are times where medicine is absolutely needed, where antibiotics are absolutely needed for, say, a human being that is so nutrient deficient and so toxic that they have severe infections, right? But infections, parasitic infections, bacterial, fungal infections, things like that don't happen when a body is fully, truly mineralized with colloids and you have a diversity of microbes in your body that you're supposed to have that have been basically decimated by the agriculture industry.
I 100% back what you're saying. I believe the more natural our body is, the more natural our intake is with our diet and stuff, the healthier we are, the less vaccines we get, the healthier we are. I live in California, as you know, in Southern California, so I have to navigate the whole nightmare. We have a 3-year-old, so navigating all the vaccines, and we're on the delayed schedule, and we're skipping the ones we don't want to do, and trying to figure out how we can still go to school without the majority of the vaccines. It's I don't want to go off on a whole tangent myself. No, that's very wise of
you. I will just say this: after 30 years of research just in that area, and a lot of conversations with the world's leading geneticists, that you're making the right decision, to say the least.
Yeah, we've never done more than one at a time, and thus far we've only done the ones that are not controversial, which is very few. But I don't want to make this a whole show on vaccines.
No, we want to look. Ultimately, here's the thing: is I'm in the business of doing my best to educate people how to build super soil, which the environment again will dictate the organisms that live in that environment. You're going to benefit, period.
That's awesome, Pat. That's really cool. Do you have any involvement in MMA at all right now? I mean, is someone else running the gym? Is the gym still going fine, I assume?
Oh, I retired from coaching years ago, Eric. I retired from coaching years ago.
But does the gym exist?
No, the gym does not exist. When I retired, that kind of went away, and I focused on broadcasting and then also my research at the same time, things that I was doing behind the scenes. So ultimately, my MMA career as a fighter, as a coach, as a broadcaster, all of that just served as a vehicle to pay the bills while I was doing real research on what makes the human body and the earth tick, basically.
I mean, that's very commendable. If you were offered a spot commentating, would you even consider, or you don't care anymore?
I would consider it, but I get a thrill out of when somebody calls me and goes, "Hey, man," when a world-class ultra runner, for instance, in his 50s, says, "Dude, I just dropped a minute per mile on a 40-mile run," in his 50s, when he was a runner his whole life. That's the sort of stuff that I want to do.
Because of the help you're giving.
I guess. Well, it's when you spend, and you know how this is because you were a professional fighter, you understand this. When you spend your entire life perfecting what you do and educating others in damaging human beings and walking on the bodies of the dead to get to world titles, you tend to want to pay back to society some of the things that you've learned to try and assist mankind, right?
Well, I think nutrition and controlling and making your environment healthy is a massive thing. I mean, so many people who aren't neck deep in the sport like you were and I was, they seem to think that training MMA or kickboxing or wrestling or jiu-jitsu is all of it. But there are so many ancillary things that make such a difference in your performance, your health,
right.
your diet. Another thing I know, you can't really help people with that much. But one thing I think is very underrated is a fighter's home life. How well does he get along with his wife or girlfriend? How cool and understanding is she before a fight? All those ancillary things make such a difference, especially at a time in a sport where everyone is so good and the gaps are closing as far as the skill level between fighters. Everyone's so close to their peak that now it's those other things that I think make the difference. So for you to be able to do that with all these world-class athletes in different sports is awesome.
Well, no, and I can tell you that I can attest, not only did I have to heal myself at the age of 20 from lifelong health issues to be able to win a title and do other things, coaching and other things. But, getting sick again because I neglected my health. I thought I was bulletproof. Once you get to a certain point, you're like, I'm good. And you forget the principles that you teach others. It's like they say, when you're married to a plumber, you've got bad pipes. My health went away. I ran myself out of gas. I demineralized my body. I got parasitic infections, brain parasites, nervous system parasites. I had black mold throughout my entire system, my respiratory system, my jaw, my bones were infected with it, in my blood, everything. And I was neglecting. And when you get that ill because you neglect yourself, because my schedule was insane. The gym, the affiliates, 3 TV networks that I was working for, a law enforcement military training company. I started medicating with alcohol, and that's my own fault. And luckily, I ran into who's one of my business partners now, Doc Will Spencer, who did a scan on me, and he goes, "Dude, you're so full of brain parasites, I can't believe you haven't committed suicide. Like, this is that bad." And so his protocol, which was my understanding, plus some antiparasitics, some very specific substances to get rid of that. 10 days later, my anxiety and depression was gone. And, I had already stopped drinking it was that quick, but I'd already stopped drinking for, I think it was 3 months at that point. But, I've been sober now almost 2.5 years. And Will was definitely one of the pivotal people in assisting me in that.
So I know that this is probably a difficult question to answer because everybody's different, but based on the knowledge that you have for world-class athletes and working with these competitors, can you give me maybe the 2 or 3 most basic things that every person should have in mind? I mean, share some knowledge with our viewers. Like, what are the 2 or 3 things that stick out that everyone should always try to keep in mind?
One, any obstacle that you run into is just that. It's just an obstacle. It's something to make you stronger, something to make you more resilient. So no matter what gets thrown in your way, if you are intent in achieving that goal, you're going to get there, and you have to truly believe that. You've got to. All distractions need to be put to the side. There can be no distractions when it comes to, the highest level of attainment in anything, whether it's business, whether it's a world title or anything else. And then in terms of athleticism and health and all those things, is know simple fundamental things like the difference between an inorganic metal and an organic metal that makes it a colloid mineral. So the vast majority of supplements out there that are made in laboratories and things like that, I'm not going to bash on them. I'm going to tell you that the vast majority for amino acids, for instance, many times your body should be building those that roll up into the proteins that you're made of. So if you repair your damaged DNA, the mRNA that gets sent out to the ribosomes to manufacture your aminos is going to be correct, and you're going to be rebuilding yourself correctly. Fundamental, simple things like that, and that germs are your friend, that the microorganisms and diversity of them, and as many as you can have in your soil, in your food, and in your body is going to greatly benefit you. So things like E. coli and staph are essential in creating vitamin B in your gut, for instance. They're not harmful until the populations have gone out of control from mineral deficiencies and toxicities, things like that. So understand biology, and you will understand how to become a superhuman.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have no idea or greatly underestimate the importance of your gut health, right?
Yeah, well, the gut and the systemic health, because the microorganisms are not just in your gut. The extremophiles that have the ability to convert even radiation into beneficial or harmless substances are what should be in your body. We should have a massive diversity of it.
Understood. Pat, do you watch much MMA anymore? Have you lost interest? I mean, I'm in my 40s. I'm not terribly overwhelmed with watching every random UFC card at fight night, that they have in Vegas with a bunch of guys who are 3-1. But the big fights I definitely watch. I watch some boxing as well. I mean, you have such a vast history in wrestling, boxing, kickboxing, MMA. Is there any interest anymore?
I love it at the grassroots level. I still love watching the UFC periodically. I'm not going to lie. But I'm a guy that would almost rather go to a kids wrestling tournament than watch, something in Vegas, with 20,000 people watching, so I'm a grassroots guy. I love helping kids. I love educating parents and kids, on their children's health and teaching kids, that's always been my first.
Pat, I'm right behind you. I got a 3-year-old who's going to wrestling at Calvary Chapel here in Southern California, which is a powerhouse in wrestling in California.
Yes, it is. That's very cool.
He's the only 3-year-old. You're supposed to be 6 to start, but my kid's so big, he's 99 percentile for height. He's as big as a 6-year-old, so they said, well, he's as big as the other kids, so if he listens, he can start. So we started a couple months ago, and it's awesome. And you're right.
So his attention span's good?
Good enough. They haven't kicked him out yet. But you're right, though,
That's
right?
awesome.
Like once you've been to hell and back with this sport, sometimes it takes a lot to pique your interest, and you're more interested in helping other people or helping kids. But are there any fighters, like in particular, that really stand out to you? Like, okay, like say maybe Pereira or Islam, someone like that, where you're like, okay, if that guy's fighting, I'm definitely watching.
Pereira's unique, and some of the Kazakhstanis and the Russians, and there's some very good Americans as well. Don't get me wrong. Pereira, I called his first fight in America, and I already knew kind of what was going to happen. And he didn't really fight a slouch. The kid was a very talented athlete, and Pereira put one left hook on him and almost killed him. And that guy's a monster. He's a very unique animal, and so people like that, yeah. And the Russians, the Kazakhstanis, things like that, people wonder why they're so good. Well, I'll tell you a couple components, and I'm sure you know this, but they've had a tougher life. They just have.
Oh, they're just
have
hard.
lived. Yeah, when you live in, it's like the Chechens. Russia has annihilated their country like 3 times, right? Bombed them into oblivion. When you grow up like that, you're going to be a pretty tough guy. But also, you have to remember that in places like Kazakhstan and other places like where they grow their food, the soil is so mineral rich, and the chemicals have not been used, that those guys are being built from the ground up, literally, right? So you're going to get better testosterone levels. You're going to have better quality of joints development, muscle, tendons, ligaments, aggression, all those type of things. That's a tough animal to deal with. And I've fought Russians, and I've wrestled Russians, and I know what it's like to grab a hold of them. They've grown up with minerals in their body.
Pat, are you working with, I mean, if somebody out there sees a show and they're a high level athlete, or they're close to one or friends of one, can they reach out to you for you to help them if they have an issue?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I've worked with pro soccer players, world class runners, swimmers, numerous athletes, football, NFL guys, stuff like that, and some fighters, of course. But the problem when you work with high level professional athletes is, I go, hey, would you give a shout out for what I do, or the brands that I've started on a supplement line and things like that? And they're like, I'm not telling anybody. I don't want. I want to keep my job. I'm not telling anybody anything. And so there's that. So that's great. That's I can respect that, because when I was coaching and things like that, I made it mandatory that the guys that I was coaching not to tell any of the coaches or fighters what they were using.
Copy. Now, how can people get a hold of you? How can we promote you?
They can find me at Pat Miletich, or pjmiletich.com, and they can find me on Instagram at PJ Miletich, Pat Miletich, Facebook, Pat Miletich, PJ Miletich, all of that. So,
okay.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Or they can send us an email to cellsaviors.org and contact me there as well.
Now, let me ask you a question. I mean, I'm just freestyling it here, but these are things that are peeking in my mind, and hopefully you have a good answer for me. With your knowledge and your research, what do you think about the rapid rise of peptide use?
Well, I mean, those are synthetic substances for the most part. I mean, you can derive them naturally, but we always have to understand that when we're creating a supplement, for instance, there's many times something going on with the body where it's not being manufactured at an optimum level, right? So again, when I go back to the amino acids, there's the ability of my body to produce everything I need if I have the highest grade substances on the planet. We're not talking a bottle of vitamin minerals at your local grocery store or health food store. We're talking the real stuff.
Yep.
So those deposits around the world exist. You just have to know how to find them and how to test for them and use them correctly to assist people. So that's really what it comes down to. But the peptide thing, I've had a lot of people use peptides and they get a bump off of it, and then they get on our protocol and they go, dude, this is because it's all natural and it's all non-GMO microorganisms. We're talking bacteria, mycelium, and extremophiles. We're talking the colloids and the real electrolytes from the ocean, not the stuff that's kind of watered down, so to speak. So it's got to be a combination of biology and minerals and vitamins and things that are that are real, because you're a biological organism. When you put the real biologicals, the components and the building blocks of, any living organism on this planet, you're going to feel it.
Yeah, we're a living thing. We need to put living things inside of us, right?
100%. Yes, sir.
Pat, I started commentating for a show this year, or just last December. The first show is called Stronghold. There's going to be 6 this year, and I'm going to twist your arm and try to get you to come out and commentate with me. I'd love to have you, Pat. I think you're the man. I think your knowledge is amazing, and I would love to sit next to you at the commentating table.
I appreciate that. I would do that with you. Michael Chiavello is another one I would do that with, because we worked together for 8 years at Access TV, and Michael's a genius himself in running. He's quarterbacking the broadcast. He's incredible, brilliant mind. So yeah, I'd love to.
Okay. Well, listen, great to have you. I want everyone to take your information that you just talked about, how to find you online, if they need your help. And can people just how do you get started with them, just so they know? Do they send you their blood test results, or how do you get their data to check first?
We have ways of testing, people for, it's we've got our own standards for testing, but I don't necessarily need to test somebody, because every American, no matter what we do issues. To a certain, we're all mineral deficient, and we're all toxic. Our environment is ridiculously toxified over the last 50, 60 years. So when you look at ag inputs, just NPK fertilizers, synthesized fertilizers, they have things like aluminum, arsenic, mercury, they have cadmium, they have uranium, all of these things in our environment, let alone the pesticides, the insecticides and herbicides and fungicides. So I'm not saying that's the biggest cause or the only cause. I'm saying that there's so many synthetics in our environment that we're feeling the impact. So we have to know how to remove those things and how to replace them with the real.
Well, Pat, it's awesome to hear you doing that. You're a better man doing this awesome stuff to help people get healthy and help show the way so that Americans can live a healthier life. And I appreciate you for coming on The Fight Guys. I'm going to follow up and bug you to come commentate with me. And stay warm out there in North Dakota. I know it's got to be cold out there. Guys, thanks for checking us out on The Fight Guys. And we will see you next week with another interesting guest.